Adam's guest today, health expert Calley Means and comedian Terrence K. Plus the news and trending topics with Jason Mayhem Miller. And now, before the show, he read all 80,000 pages of the released JFK files. Literally. Adam Carolla.
All right. Well, once again in a hotel room, but not because of the fires this time, because I'm doing shows in Arizona, and Calley Means has been generous enough to come by and have a chat with me. Good to see you, Calley.
Good to see you. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on, man. So I'm doing shows in Phoenix or Scottsdale, whatever it is, and I think it's Scottsdale. And Calley came out last time. I think you brought your sister.
That's right.
With yes, you're going to come out tonight, but we figured if we were in town, a lot of people talking, lots of health talk, lots of good conversation, lots of RFK Jr. talk. So you're the guy to go to for that. And by the way, truemedicine.care is where you go?
TrueMed.com, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just remind me of that because it's written down somewhere here.
Okay.
And the book as well, Good Energy, doing very well.
It's really sparked a movement. We're really excited. Sold 1 million copies in the first 7 months.
I'm here to tell you, as a guy who writes books, that is a lot of units, man.
Well, something I think just has sparked in society. I mean, we were talking probably 2 years ago the first time, and it was kind of weird talking health stuff on a comedy podcast. You know, it's a new thing. I feel like it's all people are talking about right now. I feel like something led by you. I mean, truly, once I went on your podcast, literally members of Congress reached out and were like, hey, can we talk more about this? There's something that's happened from independent media in the past 2 years, and the book's one example of that.
I don't get why everything is politicized and everything is a battle. It's like during COVID, sick people, fat people, people with comorbidities, they were dying. What was so wrong with saying lose some weight, get into shape, get healthy, get moving, get outside, break a sweat, put down the donut? Like Bill Maher started talking about it, and they started attacking Bill Maher. Do we have to attack everybody with an idea? I mean, the idea has nothing to do with the border. It has nothing to do with DOGE. It's just diet and exercise so the kids won't be fat. Do we have to attack everything?
So Francis Collins, who's been the head of the NIH for over a decade, just left out of fear for Bobby, and he played a woe is me thing, you know, these reclamations that he's going to get from Bobby. And I've been on Warrior for Health. Leaked emails during COVID between him and Fauci, saying that podcasters talking about exercise and the link between food and COVID was dangerous. There's leaked emails saying that. So I think you had this situation where we all just looked around. We had terrible advice on where COVID was coming from. We had terrible advice on that, you know, just take the shot, you can't transmit it. We had terrible advice on the school lockdowns. It was all wrong. And then everyone's getting sick. And then we're now told today, you know, when RFK is asking questions about vaccines or we're talking about pharma, we're shut up, don't ask questions. So the arrogance that they have now on their certainty, everyone just looks back at COVID, and there's something really off there. There's something really off where we're continued after the mistakes of COVID to say, don't ask any more questions. So I think that's what's woken people up.
Yeah, and you were saying terrible advice, but was it advice or were they just lying? Because, you know, COVID origins. The answer to every COVID origin question should have been, I don't know.
Right.
Not, I know, and it didn't come from a lab. Or the answer to ivermectin shouldn't have been, it's horse paste and it's dangerous. It should have been, we don't know. Talk to your doctor. Come up with a protocol between you and your doctor. Not, we're going to refuse to sell it to you. I mean, you know, they didn't know that outdoor dining was a problem. I have a friend who has a restaurant called Tin Horn Flats. It's gone. He defied Newsom, kept his patio open, and now there's a big iron gate around it, and he's out of business. And it was a family-run business for 50 years. Gone. Not based on anything. And then people say to me, oh, you know, let it go. I'm like, no, I'm not letting it go. Why should you let it go?
I think there's two strains here. One is that I don't think we understand how big the healthcare industry is. It's the biggest and fastest growing industry in the country. It employs more people than any other industry. And this is something, Bobby Kennedy, this is something you've been unpacking for years. There's an incentive problem where that system is driven by people being sick. So I don't think everyone in their head is executing the evil strategy to not actually get to the root cause of why we're 4% of COVID deaths, 4% of the world population, but 16% of COVID deaths, why we are, 38% of kids have prediabetes, why we are last out of 212 countries in cancer rates. We are dead worst in cancer rates. So there's all of these warning signs, and there actually is this invisible hand of incentives that the system doesn't want us to understand why and reverse that, because the fact that we're so sick is why profits and costs are driven up. Like right now, we spend 3 times more per capita than any other developed country on healthcare costs, and we have the worst life expectancy of a developed country. So there's actually, I don't think even people fully understand this, but Dr. Fauci's doled out hundreds of billions of dollars of grants to pharma. He was somehow the highest paid person in government. He has a net worth of over $10 million. It's this total revolving door. And that revolving door, tied with the fact that we trust scientists, the fact that we get badgered by the media who's funded by pharma for disagreeing with a study or disagreeing with the NIH says, it creates this environment where an industry that foundationally is profiting from us being sick is using all these elite credentials that they have to prevent us from asking questions. So I think that's kind of the war, and the war is enforced by the media. It's totally enforced. Like, you were called total wacko. Podcasts were called dangerous for talking about these metabolic ties. So I think that kind of gets to what has happened, why Bobby and Trump have seized this issue, why it's resonating, and frankly, why there's going to be so much opposition to them.
Yeah. My feeling is I get what pharmaceutical companies are doing, and I get what politicians are doing, and I get what CNN is doing because they're doing 70% of their advertising is coming from pharmaceutical companies. I get all that. I get it. These follow the money. Understood. It's the useful idiots. It's the foot soldiers. It's the Karens. It's the idiots that become weaponized who enforce all of their stuff, who they couldn't do it without them. Fauci can make all the horrible semi-retarded decrees he wants, and so can Gavin Newsom. But unless there's an army of useful idiots on patrol telling you to put your mask on, throwing you out of the store for not keeping a distance. I was in Catalina, of all places. I was outdoors. I was trying to buy a ticket to the ferry that went back to LA, and she was in a booth with a piece of glass in front of her, and I was standing outdoors by the dock, and I was trying to buy a ticket, and she told me to put a mask on. And I told her, I don't have a mask, but I'm outdoors, and you're in there behind the glass, so just give me the ticket. And she said, I can't sell it to you without the mask. And I said, we could have had the ticket by now. And she's like, I won't. And I just looked around and found a mask on the pavement. Right. And I just put the mask, I just held it, man. Okay, we couldn't have pulled this off without that bitch, who was fat, by the way. But these aren't, Fauci and Newsom can't shut the beaches themselves. We have to agree to it. And I wonder why everyone became a foot soldier for these retarded generals.
I've got an answer. I've been thinking about this a lot. And you're asking, why are the Karens, why are these liberal women enforcing this insane medical industrial complex?
Yes.
And the reason is a very widespread disease called Trump Derangement Syndrome.
Yes.
And I think what happened is, because it's really extraordinary, the left used to question pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
The left used to be talking about farmers markets. The left used to be, all the Bobby Kennedy positions, skepticism of big institutions, root cause medicine, even psychedelics. They're all issues of a Berkeley, seminar session 10 years ago. Yes. I think what happened is this Trump derangement syndrome, this strain of just reflexively being opposed to anything Trump supports, is one of the most pernicious dynamics in the country of the past decade. And when Trump was billed as the more anti-lockdown, the more anti-Fauci, eventually the conservatives got billed as more distrustful of the COVID vaccine, reflexively the left became the party of Big Pharma and Big Food, because I think predominantly that it was anti-Trump. So you had this crazy dynamic. Everyone's trying to unpack how the hell did it turn out that Bobby Kennedy is standing on a stage with Donald Trump talking about regenerative farming, talking about distrust of pharma, talking about really almost like this thesis around how corporations are bad, and everyone in the Trump audience is screaming. It's out of delight and clapping. You had this total switch because Democrats actually gave up this mantle of asking questions, of being skeptical. I mean, everything the hippies, if you actually take their platform in the 1960s, kind of stood for: anti-war, distrust of institutions. It's kind of become the Trump side.
Right.
So I think many Democrats, many of these Karens have reached stage 4 Trump Derangement Syndrome, where it's impacted the brain. They can't go back.
No, you're right.
It's terminal. And I think that is the explanation. And why these issues are now strongly on the right.
No, I agree. And I think when historians study this period, they're going to realize that it's the Trump Derangement Syndrome that torpedoed their party, because you can always disagree with your party or with the opposite party. Okay, so in the past, they want to raise the corporate taxes. You want to lower the corporate taxes. And then most of America is sort of somewhere between indifferent and maybe a little bit toward raising them, because most Americans don't have corporations. They work for people, and they go, yeah, why not those fat cats, pay a little extra. And there are many other subjects, tariffs and things of that nature. Sometimes it's things to do with schooling and education and grants and things that most Americans are like, see it there, I get that. No, I also get that side. But when you start talking about the border, and you start talking about health, and you start talking about COVID lockdowns,
DOGE, government efficiency.
You start talking about DOGE. Well, Americans are for a stout border, and they're for cutting excess spending by the government, and they don't want as much regulation and taxation and things like that. And so if you are going to just take the opposite of whatever Trump says, and whatever Trump says is a Republican. So if Republicans say, I want to lower the corporate tax, you could go, I'd like to raise the corporate tax. You won't get into trouble. But if the Republican says, I love kittens, and you go, fuck kittens, and then he goes, I love puppies and clouds, and you go, fuck puppies and clouds, well, now you're in trouble. And now you're going to get screwed, because 86% of Americans love puppies, clouds, and kittens.
This is what's happening across the board.
It is.
I think
they got baited into it, and they're so dumb they took the bait.
I mean, when the history books write about this, and they will, because I think you're having a historic crash of the Democratic Party right now. I think one scene those history books will paint is the joint session of Congress, when that kid recovering from brain cancer stands up, this 13-year-old kid, he's had 10 brain cancer surgeries. President Trump, for the first time in a speech I've ever seen, actually associated that cancer to preventable toxins the child was exposed to, talked about the skyrocketing childhood cancer rates, and that kid stood up, and they clapped, and they talked about how Bobby Kennedy was going to work across the aisle to figure out why kids are getting so sick. Democrats sat on their hands. Not one Democrat could rise, based on Trump Derangement Syndrome, for a child recovering from brain cancer. This is what Trump is trapping them across the board.
I know. Yeah. He's playing them. Well, Huel, it's a brand new year. That's right. I'm holding it. You want to hear it? That's what it sounds like. That's what success sounds like. You're setting goals, but are you hitting them? Let's talk about hitting them. And I'll tell you about today's sponsor, Huel. You spell it Huel. Their Black Edition, ready to drink, is a complete meal in a bottle, high protein, low in sugar, packed with all the nutrients you need to perform at your best. And good news, new customers can try it out and get 15% off, plus a free gift using my exclusive code ADAM. Stuff's great. As a matter of fact, they give us this stuff, and it gets consumed here quite quickly because everyone who works here is a fan, and so am I. No prep, no cooking. Just grab a Huel for your most convenient meals. Easy. Take it with you on the road. Hit it. All good. Tastes like a milkshake, low in sugar. It's Huel, right, Dawson?
Get 15% off plus a free gift for new customers with the code ADAM at Huel.com. Start your year off strong with Huel, nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters.
And I think you make such a good point on I think about this a lot, this old debates that I used to kind of get into when I was a young conservative in D.C., 15 years ago. It's like the marginal tax rate and, what the marginal spending on different programs have been. I think what Trump has done is it's not this left-right issue. The marginal defense spending or the marginal corporate tax rate isn't what's going to be existential to our country. He's actually, the election was about like big ideas. Everyone's saying on the media that he's talking small ball. Look at the two big themes, two big initiatives of the administration, DOGE and MAHA. These are like really foundational, existential things, like big things they're talking about. It's not marginal policies or where Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement rate should be. It's truly like we're going to decline as a competitive civilization if we continue letting our largest industry profit from kids being sick and not get to a fundamental rethink of healthcare, where right now 95% of all the healthcare dollars we spend are on managing, not curing, managing. You get heart disease, you get the statin. 25% of women are on SSRI. 25% of women are on an antidepressant right now. It's like we have this societally completely destabilizing situation happening. And then DOGE, foundationally, is about we are going to be driven off of a cliff with government spending, just mathematically. So
25% of women on serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Okay. Okay, first off, I say this all the time, but for 30 years, I've been telling people, go for a hike and listen to classical music. Just do it. Before any studies, I'd be on Loveline, and people be talking about, we want to get our kid on this, or the doctor wants to put me on this SSRI, and I'd go, just hike and listen to classical music. Give it 2 weeks. I bet you feel better. It's insane. And you're right with women. So there's a thing going on. I have a lot of unpopular positions that make people think I'm an asshole, but I roll the dice with how people think I am. There is something going on out there, and it's a lot of women. Oh, yeah. And now, when you look at the Democratic Party, it's tons of women. Like when you picture the gallery at Trump's speech to people that weren't standing, it's a whole crop of women. And I said it a million times, when all the women who were the presidents of Harvard and the institutions got in front of Congress, all they needed was a super bitchy Republican woman to snap at them, to have them dig in, become defiant, argue, and then eventually say something stupid. So women have a different wiring than men, which is to say, you look at a guy like Trump. Everyone thinks, he's a dictator and he's an egotist and a narcissist and all that. He insults people insult him, and then at some point, little Marco Rubio goes to work for him. Right. You know what I mean? And then gets up and praise him. That's all his world is. He navigates New York, and he's a commercial builder. So he has fallouts with guys, then they come back together, then they have fallouts again. Women, they don't come around. Like once they announce, I hate Trump, that's it. There is no Fetterman version of that. Fetterman's like, look, he does stuff I disagree with, he does stuff I agree with, so I'm just going to call balls and strikes. And then people go, oh, yeah, the guy who had a stroke and couldn't speak a year ago, that guy makes sense. But the women aren't down with it, and Democratic women especially. Mm-hmm. And all these Karens out there, and all the enforcers, and all the COVID women, and all the teachers, and all the teachers' unions, and all these nut job yentas, they're all Democratic women. They all have Trump Derangement Syndrome, and they don't care. And it doesn't, you could say, you're going to lose the next 1,000 elections. And
Right.
they'd go, fuck you. Like, remember, I can't remember her name, like Lorena Sanchez or something out of San Diego.
Right.
When Elon Musk,
Elon Musk.
fuck Elon Musk. Like, all right, he's taking his giant brain and his billions of dollars and he's leaving.
And
Good, fuck you.
And the top selling cars in the country that are made in California.
AOC's greatest achievement so far
Amazon.
was canceling an Amazon. Canceling an Amazon hub that would have provided jobs for 50,000 people. Now, it wasn't canceling an Amazon hub and then opening an Alibaba hub. It was just canceling. And she's like, fuck you.
In her district.
Yeah, and then she shows up like a conquering hero. Like, their whole thing is just fuck off. And nothing, and they're process people. Karen Bass is this way. Talk. Nothing ever comes out the other end. And they're getting burned by it.
Well, I'll add
women are going nuts.
I'll add a little nuance to this.
Please. There must be something chemically going on, too.
Well, you have a societal dynamic, and I think a lot of women are actually getting very frustrated about this, about the overall attack on being a woman, being a mother. I think this gets to another 80-20 issue that Trump's hit on. I mean, when I was sitting in Trump rallies in the lead up to the election, there was no bigger visceral applause line when President Trump talked about the attack on women and particularly the boys and girls sports. I mean, I've actually never seen anything like it in politics. Just this visceral reaction of the crowd. They were clapping for a lot of the issues. It was like stand up, like hair on fire, like yes. Like, so I think there's definitely you're describing something correct of the Democratic Party elected representatives, but you actually had a dynamic in the election where millions of women became first-time Trump voters, and overwhelmingly those women were mothers. So when you actually break it down, Trump overwhelmingly won mothers and overwhelmingly lost single women who were childless. That was clear in the numbers. And there was expected to be, based on this assumptions of Trump and women, a massive 22-point gender gap, and it was actually closed to 7. I think something that President Trump hit on in the election is actually a unifying theme of a lot of his points were an attack on kids. I think the COVID lockdowns actually have led to anger among parents that I don't think people fully understand and will last a generation when we saw what kids did.
Well, they're having a fundamental problem on the left, which is they are trying to force men into doing things that go against our biology, and they're trying to force women into doing things that go against their biology.
They're trying to denigrate motherhood. It is just flatly like there's a complicated
I know,
issue.
But they're trying to get men to not be toxic and not wrestle and not do it.
It's a war on masculinity.
Yeah, it's a war on masculinity,
it is a war
but
on motherhood.
It's a war on femininity and masculinity, and to the point where it now starts turning into transgender stuff, and they are insane because you can't fight with biology.
Right.
You can try to wage a war against biology, but you will lose eventually. And also, I don't even know what the end game is, because who wants a husband who wants two of you? Meaning this. The husband and the wife. It's like you want the husband to be the protector, to be the guy to fix stuff. When you're laying in bed and 3 a.m. and you hear a window break downstairs, you don't want to play rock, paper, scissors to see who goes and sees what the noise is about. You want the husband to do it.
No woman would want anything.
They wouldn't want that. As I'm saying, why are you trying to shape this when you don't want it? It's like, also, it's a partnership, like, yeah, the husband, maybe he could fix the car, maybe he can clean the gutters, maybe he can whatever, and the mom can do what the mom does. You have different roles. It's like when they make one of those movies, those caper movies, they go, we need a wheel man. We need a second story man. We need a computer hacker. They don't go, we need 3 wheel men. They got a guy who can drive. Now we need a second story guy and a safe cracker. That's how relationships are supposed to work. It's not supposed to be 2 of you. Nothing gets done. And women are getting, single women, motherless single women are the angriest human beings
Well, they've been lied
on
to.
the planet.
They've
been lied to.
They've
But
been
they didn't.
lied to by society.
All right, but they didn't have to listen. It's their fault. Like, they got lied to during COVID. Everyone got lied to during COVID. I got lied to during COVID, and I yelled at everyone, stop it. You don't need to do this.
My sisters talked about this. I mean, she was, trained at Stanford and Stanford Medical School, that motherhood was kind of this cop-out, that she had to work her ass off and she had to go to the she
had to be like a man.
She had to, that's exactly what she says. She had to be like a man, that it was kind of a sellout of all of her ability to even think about producing children, freeze your eggs, do all this stuff. And she, at 35, is kind of on this transition, writing this book, having this spiritual awakening, just got married, and is saying that her cooking for her family, her doing those traditional feminine actions, is actually the most important service she can do for the world. That actually we've gotten away from, the importance of cooking for the family, the importance of being a great mother. Like, no, there's complicated dynamics. People should be doing whatever they want. But the denigration, the fact that Harvard Medical School, this is true, to this day, you cannot say the word mother. Yeah. The fact that the American Medical Association, which sets the standard of care for how we're treated as patients in society, all of our Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement rates go through them. They say a 2-year-old can do gender transition. A 2-year-old. Right. Like, this is a war on our differences. This is a war on men, but also a war on women. And I think there was something that strain that Bobby and Trump hit on. I think as they talked at rallies about this spiritual crisis of healthcare, this is really complicated concepts, but I think men and women gravitated to them. You had record young people, independents, women coming to Trump. I think that at the highest level is what they're talking about. And for me, with a wife that's pregnant right now with our second kid, it is singular what women are able to do. I mean, like, producing life in their bodies is the greatest act a human being can do. It does make them different. It's really good. And this attack on differences, this attack on the importance of that act, it's a really important societal dynamic. And I think actually that's the root of the health crisis more than any tactical healthcare policy. We've lost respect for the family, for children, for, of course we've lost respect for children when 50% are overweight or obese. There's just kind of almost like this lack of first principle thinking. And
look, they are fundamentally against whatever was in this society. 1955, homes, cars, a picket fence, a mother, a father, children, praying, whatever it is, whatever was, that's what they're against. And it's really not, you can break it down, male, female, or education, or whatever it is, but it's really just a battle against traditional American values, which are the best, keep people sane. And, I don't know why I was picturing it the whole time, but yes, women have a biological mandate to have children, become pregnant, be nurturers.
The best thing possible for society, and what we should be incentivizing at the core. We should be incentivizing more babies, celebrating moms as the most important role a human being can play, and doing whatever we can to incentivize more babies and healthier babies. It's just very simple.
And 7-year-old boys want to wrestle. They want to wrestle. And you can't run in and yell at them when they're wrestling because they want to wrestle. And I don't know why, but I'm just picturing my 110-pound black lab, Phil. And it's like, when I would let Phil out, he'd just trot right to the pool. He'd just go right to the pool, and then he'd just go right on in, and he'd just be chugging through the pool. He's a water dog. That's just what he does, And if I stood there and blocked him and then started swatting him and yelling, no, that's not right, you know what I mean? It would fuck him up. Because that's what he does. That's what his instincts are. I don't know why. That's what he does. And they are trying to talk people out of what is. And I used to say this on Loveline all the time when they'd go, well, how come men build all the bridges and women? I go, because it's what is. It's just what is.
Yeah.
It's nature. I don't know. That's how it works.
Yeah.
It's not part of a grand and evil scheme. It's just what happens when you leave people alone.
Yeah, so we talked about the incentives. I also think a lot of this is actually a psyop from corporations of getting all these Karens wound up on social justice issues that are completely against their own interests.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the weaponization of gender, the weaponization of race, the things that put people into the different tribes, it's almost all corporate funded. The Human Rights Foundation, the big group that basically had a big victory on gay marriage. I know people there. They said, well, we got the gay marriage. Are we just going to shut up shop? No. They're going to figure out how to advance the situation. And they went to trans. And now the top donor by far to the Human Rights Foundation is pharma companies. And they're actually funneling millions of dollars to the Human Rights Foundation to say that anybody who opposes hospitals having mass pediatric surgery departments to cut off little boys' penises, literally, is against social justice. And you had the whole apparatus of these civil rights groups, from the Human Rights Foundation to the NAACP, which has done good things. I think more acceptance of gay marriage was a good thing, but they all have to keep going.
Yes.
They all have people there. There's no end of the road. They
There
go
is no
more
end.
extreme, and they just open for business on corporate donations. So today, the NAACP is a registered lobbyist and takes millions of dollars from the maker of Ozempic, and they are literally going to senators on the Democratic side and saying, we are going to attack you for being racist unless you support Medicaid funding of Ozempic because black people are more obese. Now, this is insane.
Every
because
Ozempic commercial I see seems to be exclusively people of color, and I always look at it and I go, why are these black commercials?
Because they're trying to get Medicare and Medicaid funding. Because they are taking those commercials and funding the Hispanic Federation, funding the NAACP, and weaponizing race. The NAACP and all these civil rights groups that have done good work in the past are fully owned subsidiaries of bad corporate actors. And those corporate actors are like white men sitting in D.C. and New York, cynically rigging these social justice issues to get the Karens to think that they're doing the right thing by arguing to cut 12-year-olds' penises off.
Right.
And to jam 12-year-olds on Medicaid with a lifetime drug instead of improving that kid's nutrition. The American Heart Association, we're doing a lot of work with Bobby. We're pushing this a no-brainer of taking soda off of food stamps.
Oh.
It's no-brainer. We fund billions of dollars a year from the federal treasury to soda companies. We shouldn't be outlawing Coke, but of course, we shouldn't have a low-income nutrition program that the number one item, 15% of it goes to sugary drinks.
15%.
So 15%. So we are engaging in states because Bobby and Brooke Rowlands, the USDA secretary, is asking for state waivers and state innovation and really encouraging federalism for states to take soda off SNAP. That's how it works. And last week in Texas, the American Heart Association, the top lobbyist flew into Texas and said the American Heart Association is against taking soda off of SNAP.
Right.
They are paid universally, it's on the website, by all the big food companies. So the American Heart Association isn't some ticky-tack group. They actually make the cardiology guidelines that are endowed by Congress to be ingrained in the standard of care. If you're a cardiologist and go against the American Heart Association, you can lose your license. They are paid by food companies and lobbying to keep soda on SNAP. I mean, this is a total corporate capture. And I think unwittingly, particularly the left has fallen into this trap where they're a bad person for going against these groups that have been weaponized. The last one is all the nutrition groups now are paid for by big food. And they on TikTok and Instagram are saying that it is bad for doctors to ask about weight and that you're fat phobic now for ever talking about weight. Health at any size has been, you talk about this, it's been the worst idea ever. Every single medical organization, and I know Bobby's going to do this, should just unequivocally say kids shouldn't be fat. Kids should not have diabetes. Like that is they are being shamed to not say that, the medical groups. And the left thinks that's fat phobic because of this corporate capture. Like we've just lost track of common sense, and that's the battle we have right now.
Well, listen, it's funny because this stuff got pitched a long time ago, because I do remember, when I did Loveline, we're right at 30 years ago when I started Loveline. And I remember lots of sort of conversations that we're having 30 years ago. And a few things always stand out. One of them was the capturing of the language, which is
right.
all part of the big picture, right? And so I'd sit there and I'd go, "Oh, were you a rape victim?" And they go, "Rape survivor. And I go, "Okay, I don't know why we have to make, okay, that's the victim, survivor. Okay, fine. By the way, you weren't on a ship that went down in the sea. You were raped by your boyfriend. But anyway, all right, you're a survivor." And then later on, I'd talk to someone and I'd go, are you blind? And they'd go, "Seeing impaired." And I go, "What's it? Oh, by the way, there is a distinction." Okay. And I kept saying to Drew, I don't know, what's with all the words? What's with all the corrections of the words? Well, now we're there. It's corporate. We're there.
Well, when you see, Barry Weiss has talked about this, when you're able to convince people that they don't have something that they can control, but they're afflicted and it's like part of their identity, it actually really helps the medical system. Like now, like the language around diabetes, now obesity. Harvard Medical School saying that is a lifetime affliction. Right. It is a genetic condition. When you're able to convince people more and more that it's part of their identity,
yes,
and then they're able to be proud of that, it's a psyop because they lose agency then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but one of the big battles, and it started about that time when I was doing Loveline, was they'd go, "You can't judge. You can't judge." And I'd go, "Oh, that's all I do. I just judge all fucking day." And they're like, "Yeah, but no judging, no profiling, no judging." And I was like, "Oh, no. There's judging, and then shame comes with judging. And when you're 100 pounds overweight, there's going to be some judging, and there should be some shame. And then you would be motivated to lose weight." But I always think of Michael Strahan. Michael Strahan always tells the story where he goes, "I was fat, and everyone called me fat. And I grew up on a military base, and everyone called me fatso. And I said, you know what, fuck that. And I started eating right, and I went to the weight room, and I said, no one's ever going to call me fat again." Yes, when he was 12, he got shamed into fitness. And he's never been fat again. And we stopped judging, and we said, you cannot judge. And now we got a bunch of fat people.
This is actually, I think, why people are waking up, because we do judge, but we selectively judge, and it's all based on corporate interests. Let me give an example.
Oh, well, by the way, look, the hardest leftist, wokest celebrity is never going to date a fat chick.
Right.
So they're judging. Believe me, they're judging.
But on a systemic level, let's look at the medical industry. So the medical industry is now saying you can't judge being fat. You can't judge. They say this. The medical guidelines say this in the American Academy of Pediatrics. They say, there's social justice issues, affordability issues. Kids are okay eating ultra-processed food. So they don't judge when it comes to food or kids being morbidly obese at an epidemic rate, but they definitely judge if you're a mom not giving the 72 shots at exactly the right time. They definitely judged people that weren't taking the COVID vaccine. They definitely were judging people that were questioning whether school lockdowns were good idea. So the problem and the bankruptcy of the system is that they know how to make a point. I mean, it cannot be stated enough. We closed down the entire country in 3 days based on the medical system judging. Right. So they judge selectively.
Yes.
But so you are an absolute war criminal and going to be kicked out of a pediatric process. You are an absolute war criminal going to be kicked out of a pediatric practice for even asking a single question about the hepatitis B vaccine, a vaccine for an STD that is recommended on the schedule to give on the first day of life, where you had literally senators that were badgering Bobby on this issue, actually conceding that's a terrible advice, even though that's the mandate on the CDC guidance. Like there's nuance here. And if a parent asks a question, kicked out of the practice.
Yeah.
But so there's judgment. But at that same pediatrician meeting, they give a pamphlet to parents from the American Academy of Pediatrics, which they're required to do. And it says the first food a kid should eat is ultra-processed puffs, and that they really shouldn't eat, real natural food, which is terrible advice. And that we really shouldn't judge what kids eat. If they're picky eaters, give them the puffs. So it's all kind of hands off there. My only point is, let's judge in the correct way. Let's have pediatricians, if a child is overweight or obese and says that kid is going to die earlier, that kid is going to be more likely to be depressed, more likely to have diabetes, more likely to have heart issues, more likely to have infertility. Let's put that judgment in the right direction. Yep. And I think this hypocrisy, people are starting to really realize and call out.
They're starting to catch on. I mean,
the voters are.
Well, there's a psychological dynamic that goes along with this stuff as well that is invisible, and nobody really is talking about it, except for this podcaster, of course, which is, I don't want people to take Ozempic because they're going to lose their agency, because they're going to lose their discipline. It's really important to have discipline. So discipline, people talk about talent, and they talk about God-given ability, and they talk about Nepo babies, and they talk about who you know, and they talk about family wealth and all that. The number one quality of all successful people I know is discipline. They're just disciplined. And I don't mean it in a regimented army barracks kind of way. I just mean they can control themselves. They know, they have to be there. They have to show up. They have to work hard. They have to work weekends. It's a discipline. And it goes right into the diet. It's the same with the diet and exercise. And if you start taking a pill or a shot that says you no longer have to worry about your diet, discipline yourself for your diet, you don't have to exercise, here's another pill, you don't need that. Well, then that discipline, which is a daily, it's a daily, pardon the pun, exercised discipline. You wake up in the morning and you go, I'd like a donut. You go, maybe I should eat that apple instead. That's part of it. That's all part of the process. And you go, I'm a little tired. I don't think I'm up to working out today. And then someone goes, hey, just get out, go for a walk for an hour. That's you having dominion over yourself. When you lose that, when you take that away, that will bleed into every facet of life, and your life will be diminished greatly.
Not to puff you up too much, but I was driving over here. I was thinking, I saw you last year here. You've been have such a sustained career. You rip out the podcasts. You do the tours. I mean, you just stay really consistent, and that is a quality of every successful person, and it is a quality that we should be engendering in our kids. I think what you're hitting on is like the core spiritual center of what Casey and I tried to write about, and what I think we have the opportunity to do, which is that drugs are a moral hazard. I really do believe that the first meeting between a doctor and a child, when that child has the slightly high cholesterol, or is a little fidgety and distracted, or is a little bit sad, or has high blood sugar. Again, 38% of teens have prediabetes, have high blood sugar. They should be prescribed a statin. Cholesterol's off the charts. SSRI prescriptions have doubled in the last 5 years among high schoolers. So there's a lot, it doubled. 35% of teens are on a long-term chronic disease medication. You've got kids really suffering. 35%. There's 4.9 billion prescriptions written a year, and it's exploding among teens. You have this situation where we all see it. I know you have your daughter's in college, right? But you've seen in high school recently. There is something. Gut check us on this. There's something a little bit different happening with kids right now. I think most parents can see that when you look in a classroom with the mental health and the chronic.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So listen, women are in charge of the home. The men, and myself, I'm physically gone a lot of the time. Like, you can go, well, let's have a discussion. But if I'm in Philadelphia doing shows. I'm just not going to physically be there, So like guys oftentimes aren't there. Women do not have the gene where, and this is I've complained about this a bunch of times, but it works well in this metaphor. Son's 18, good kid, healthy and everything. But when he was born, he had the helmet, or they wanted him to wear the helmet.
Right.
Now, what I'm saying is the pediatrician goes, I've looked at his skull and blah, blah, blah. And then the doctor goes, you should really just talk to a specialist. And then we go home and I go, fuck this shit. No one I've ever met who's over the age of 30 ever wore a helmet. Now everyone's got a helmet.
Right.
This is bullshit, man.
Now, yeah.
Joel McHale's kid's got a helmet. Every time you bring it up, someone will go, yeah, my kid's got the helmet too. I go, okay, when did this start?
Yeah.
Because this didn't exist. And then the wife goes, let's just talk to the specialist because he's a specialist. And then they go, are you a specialist? Are you a cranial specialist? Because last I checked, you tell fart jokes and you used to be a carpenter, but that doesn't make you a specialist. And then I go, I'm not. I happen to know everything, but I'm not. And then they go, let's just talk. And then you go to the specialist, and the specialist is in the business of selling helmets. So then the next thing you know, the kid has a $4,000 helmet. Okay, what I'm saying is how else is this going to go? Look, the doctor, the pediatrician is working with the cranial specialist, and the cranial specialist wants to get paid. So who's going to interrupt this process? And my answer is the moms. But the moms better wake up, because I was never down with the drugs. I was never down with the helmets. I was never down with the Purell. I said Purell is bad for kids. You're killing all the flora and the fauna. These kids need to be exposed like Amish kids. They need to go outside. All this shit I said got voted down by the mom. And the moms win the vote.
Well,
so
moms are waking up.
Turning them around.
Moms are waking up. They're who voting for Bobby Kennedy. They're who buying our book. And this is the message. When it comes to a chronic condition, something that's not going to kill your child right away, if they're ripping out that prescription pad for the Adderall, for the SSRI, for the statin, the heart issues, the weight, ignore your doctor for the time being, or at least take a second, take a beat. They use the urgency of an acute intervention. You need to take this antibiotic right now or you're going to die. If that's the case, listen to your doctor. I would strongly advise, if your kid it has 104-degree fever and is seizuring and about to die, go to the hospital. If your kid has a broken arm, if you've got a life-threatening issue, if you're a mom that has a very complicated childbirth, 100%. Our medical system is a miracle. But that is 5% of medical spending. What the big sleight of hand is that 95% of medical spending is chronic disease. And there is an invisible hand when a child has an indicator of metabolic dysfunction, which really underlies all of these chronic conditions, where if that doctor gets them, exactly as you said, on the prescription, it's a moral hazard. Because let's just take an example. Let's take a kid that's a little bit depressed and a little bit fidgety, and the doctor's thinking about the prescriptions for Adderall and for an SSRI, which are rampant among kids right now. The doctor's not asking, is the kid in the sunlight much? The doctor's not asking whether it's appropriate that the public school they're going to, where the kid gets less time outside an average public school than a maximum security prison. The doctor's not asking whether 70% of that child's diet is ultra-processed food that if you give to any animal, they'd start going crazy. They're not asking about their phone time. They're just going straight for that pill in the 15-minute appointment. And the doctor with that prescription, as you said, is implicitly saying taking that pill will do something, right? The American Diabetes Association, they were shamed to change this, but until 2018, the guidelines that is if you took your diabetes medication, you did not have to limit sugar intake as a diabetic.
Wow.
Like the statins. We all know they're prescribed everywhere. It's like, oh, now you can eat what you want to eat. Now you're doing something. And Ozempic, to this day, Harvard Medical School is saying obesity is a genetic condition. It's not tied to willpower. And they're not saying eat healthier. That's not even in the guidelines. It's just take the Ozempic. So you're robbing that child of more curiosity about what they're putting into their bodies, more curiosity about living a life where they're more physically active, where they are hiking, where they are looking at the sun. I think it's a deeper spiritual issue where it's just like robbing them of like understanding of the cycles and interconnectivity of their body.
Yes.
And this isn't woo-woo stuff. Something my sister and I have been really passionate about from like, we've been trying to psyop the right to actually care about this issue because you've basically been conditioned for decades on the right that this is woo-woo hippie stuff. It's actually just common sense root cause stuff. And I think it's a very positive development that Trump, Bobby, it's kind of there's animation on the right on these issues. Like we've totally lost the plot where we're poisoning our kids and then drugging them, telling them that they're doing something for the poisoning with the drugging. There's this big battle right now where essentially the medical system's arguing that the poisoning of kids is inevitable and all we can do is out-hack it on the back end. And that's a dark place to be. And that to me is the big fight right now with Maha. We need to totally rechange how we think about medicine. With the $5 trillion nearly we spend, what if that went to incentivizing kids to get more active, incentivizing them to eat healthy shit, incentivizing them to not poison themselves?
I agree. Like I said, I've made myself very unpopular by yelling about all this stuff all the time, which is like they go, well, these people financially, they've done this thing where they go, poor people don't have access. And I was like, I've screamed about this my entire career. I'm like, well, hard boil some eggs, buy some goddamn apples. What do you mean you don't have access? Rice, beans, cook, make it at home. What do you mean you don't eat? Give your. I was screaming about. Stop sending your kids to get fed at school. These people can't afford. You can't afford to make your kid eggs, then you should have your kids removed from the fucking house because then you cannot be a parent. If a bird can't feed its chick, then the chick must be taken out of the nest and raised somewhere else. Don't give me the shit. It's all white, liberal, woke douchebags. Yeah. I went on a rant about this, and the Young Turks did a half hour on what an animal I was. They always spin it around. Adam's too cheap. Fuck that. It's not about money. It's about being an engaged parent. Cook at home. It's cheaper.
It's a psyop.
It is.
I just tweeted today a group called, Protect Beverage Freedom or some bullshit like that. Group funded by Coke and Pepsi, and they have diverse families saying that it's an affordability crisis and how could we possibly take soda away from food stamps and how could we possibly restrict things like food dyes in our food. They actually have a stat, and they're saying this is like a social justice issue, that 80% of the grocery store aisles would be empty if we take chemicals out of our food that are banned in every other country. They're making the wrong point.
Right.
The fact that literally chemicals are so prominent in our food that are banned in every other country that make up 80% of things people can buy on Snap, they're actually making the case for change. But they wrap it in a social justice issue, and you hit on it exactly right. There's two elements here. One is we need to, as the medical community, need to start talking to people with respect and with certainty. Somebody asked me one time, what do you say to a low-income single mom if all she can afford is ultra-processed food for her kids? I'd say she's poisoning her child. I'd say she needs to do whatever the hell she could possibly do to not poison her child, and that the government is lying to her, saying these things are correct.
But I don't even get it.
And the affordability argument is bullshit. No, it's bullshit. It's a weaponized.
You don't have to eat fast food.
And Coca-Cola literally lobbies to keep SNAP funding low so all people can afford is ultra-processed food. And there's been $1 trillion in agriculture subsidies over the past 10 years to prop up. Why does this artificial crap cost so much less than natural food, which theoretically is the input that went into the packaged crap? It's because there's so many subsidies. So it's a whole game. So there is the personal responsibility thing that I do blame the medical system for. Because what if every single doctor had the level of judgment they had on taking the COVID vaccine or taking regular vaccine? What if they said to that mom every single time that you are poisoning your child? And I agree the system is effed up, but you need to make sure 80% of your child's diet is whole food because they're going to have a terrible life. And if you can't afford that, you need to figure something out. The affordability issue is bullshit because it's actually more expensive to go to McDonald's. It's more expensive to do ultra processed food.
This is why I go nuts with the race hustle, because I say to everyone, knock it off. And they go, what's wrong with the equality or whatever? Because it bleeds into everything, and then you control everyone with it. It bled into COVID. They immediately got into race and how this affected. They do it with climate change. They'll do it with this stuff about the people that are on food stamps are predominantly people of color, and now you're trying to take away their ability to live with dignity and have choice and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, everything's race. And whenever they're losing the argument, they go, right. If you hear them bring up race, that means they're losing the argument. First off, I'm rich. Ask me the last time I bought a Coke. 31 years ago. You don't have to buy Coke. Whether the government gives you Coke or you're rich, it's still bad for you and you don't need it. I passed a place. I thought of you. I don't know, made me laugh. I was walking through Burbank. Yeah. I'm displaced, you know. So I'm in a new town and I'm going for a walk and I'm going through Burbank. And I pass a little store. Burbank still has a lot of mom and pop little places around. I pass a little shop, and it says pastries. That's all. It's just pastries. They don't do smoothies and wraps and pastries. It's just pastries. And then it says, we accept SNAP. We take food stamps. And I'm like, the last thing anyone really needs is pastries. I like pastries, but I'll call it a luxury item. And I thought, really, we have to subsidize people who can't afford food so that they can get pastries, which are not good for them or their kids. And it's not a hate crime to go, listen, we're only going to subsidize healthy food. We're not subsidizing pastries or Pepsi. How about that? And then they go, oh, that's a hate crime. And I go, you don't have to be on food stamps, if you don't want to be.
And all you need to know is that the NAACP, it's actually crazy. It's vertical integration. They take millions of dollars from Coca-Cola, and they take millions of dollars from the maker of Ozempic. And then what are they lobbying for? They're not lobbying for children's nutrition. If the NAACP cared at all about the population they're ostensibly supposed to fight for, they would point out that a lower income person of color in this country lives 15 years less than a higher income person. That is not because of this bullshit social justice issues we're talking about. It is predominantly because of that population's, the lower income population's metabolic health and nutrition. I mean, that's just demonstrably what's driving this dramatically lower life expectancy. Yet they take millions of dollars from Coke, say, let's subsidize that. And then, and this just totally bankrupts the cost and affordability argument, they aggressively lobby for Ozempic to be covered on Medicaid. That's $1,600 per month, taxpayer money, $1,600 per month. So my argument is always, that's being considered right now. The Biden gave a Christmas present to Trump and Bobby and said, actually gave a ruling that they have to decide on now of making Ozempic taxpayer funded. And we'll see what happens with that. But so we have the money for $1,600 a month to basically band-aid the poisoning and not teach the kid any habits that are actually going to improve their life. You could literally buy an organic like salad at Sweetgreen, with a side of caviar every single meal, 3 meals a day, and have less. You could buy them an Equinox gym membership. Like $1,600 a month is a lot.
Yeah.
So it bankrupts the cost argument, and we're hit on an interesting strain here. There's a corporate capture, very bad corporations that do not have progressive interests at heart have totally weaponized the civil rights groups, the medical institutions that Karens trust.
Yes.
And I do think the left has fallen into a trap where the Trump Derangement Syndrome combined with, I think people need institutions to look towards. Trust the American Academy of Pediatrics, trust the NAACP, trust Harvard Medical School studies, which should be looked at with no greater respect than a PR document from pharma, just given where the funding goes. These are things we've been raised to respect. And I think that's what we're untangling. And for whatever reason, the Karens on the left, I think, due to the corporate psyop that happening, is still clinging to those institutions.
Yeah.
And that's become a virtue.
Well, we have 51 former intelligence heads signing a document that says that laptop has all the earmarks of Russian collusion. Okay, 51 experts.
Right.
We have experts. I have experts telling about COVID origin, and experts telling about ivermectin, and experts. And you sit around and you go, oh, yeah, I guess, this guy's a cranial expert. He said your son needed a helmet. He's an expert. It's all gone.
It's sad.
And that's the sad part. They've all been bought. And I'm telling everybody, you got to figure it out.
It's agency. It's agency.
And that's why I don't want you on the Ozempic.
Just every parent watching, it's just like there's these moments where institutions are trying to get you to go down this dark path, and they're trying to take agency from you. My sister talks about there's nothing more profitable than a child whose dopamine's been hijacked, whose parents are in fear, is being told that there's this special answer. There's actually like trillions of dollars of incentives to take agency from people. I think, just to get to the moment we're in right now, I think you're seeing it in Trump's first month. They're really trying, I think, and you can quibble with, different details, but they're trying to really go at these core existential issues. Again, DOGE is really going for the heart of it, like going to the heart of this corruption. You've got people like Tulsi and Hegseth going at the heart of the military-industrial complex. You've obviously got Bobby, trying to untangle I think the most complicated web of them all. Yeah. There's going to be constant delegitimization from the CIA, from the media. It's going to be a war from all the elite institutions, from Harvard Med School. They're all going to be trying to chip away at what's happening and make it look like a shit show, maybe some of that self-inflicted, I think everyone can improve and is trying to. But no matter what happens, the measles outbreak, there are measles outbreaks every single month. There are measles outbreaks every single year. We are actually low on average. Yes. And you've never heard about measles outbreaks under President Biden. It's breathless coverage, front page coverage every single day about measles outbreak. There is going to be one thing after the next to destabilize this administration. And I do think we've got to be patient. We've got to support them.
No, I agree. I get what the institutions are doing. I get what Big Pharma's doing. I get what the government's doing. I get the money, the CIA. Everyone's trying to protect themselves. A January 6th committee. I get what they're doing. It's when I went to the Glendale DMV, and there was a Tesla, and there's a bumper sticker, and it just said, fuck Elon Musk on the back of Tesla. I was like, hey, dope. Don't you get what they got you to do? You are just a useful idiot for them, the ones going out and burning Teslas and putting the stupid bumper stickers on their Teslas.
The deep state has gotten the left to hate an American company led by a founder who's trying to dismantle these institutions that are holding down the exact people that are protesting.
What I'm saying is how malleable are you? How easily manipulated are you that they've got you to go against everything you were formerly for just because you have Trump Derangement Syndrome?
Well, I'll just be tactical in how I'm thinking about it. I'm not worried about those people. I think we've got to keep winning and got to keep Trump at least 54% support, and the support for this DOGE, Maha. I think we've got a battle where these issues are a 12-year battle, like untangling this incredible orgy of corruption of our institutions. We're only scratching the surface in the next 4 years. So I think it is actually vital. We're probably never going to get those crazy people, but if the momentum and wins keep going, if we continue to celebrate wins of improving healthcare, of changing SNAP, of reforming the NIH, of exposing government corruption that's holding us back, like if we can push through this firebombing of Teslas right now, this complete delegitimization of Bobby, if we can push through that and start celebrating wins as a country and maintain the popularity of these movements, we're going to have a shot. But that's, I think, where the big battle is. It's the psyops trying to weaken public support. And if public support weakens for these initiatives, we're in trouble. I think they need 12 years. So that's kind of an area I'm thinking a lot about. And I think we do have now microphones that the truth has never had. I mean,
Yes.
I do think the change in how people can get information and the skepticism among the majority of the country, not just listening to what's on the news, but looking on X, listening to podcasts, I think it's a good thing. But that's my kind of existential fear. Trump, frankly, what he's doing needs to maintain public support, and we've got to help him on that. That's my opinion.
I agree. Calley, it's a beautiful day outside. And I know you're going to come out tonight.
Yes, sir.
To see the show and
my wife's a big fan.
Come backstage right after the show and hang out with us. I'll make sure we get some ultra-processed food for you.
I want to be noted, you have got fruit here. You've got a very good platter.
Yes, and the book, Good Energy, selling like hotcakes, but don't eat those hotcakes, people. Have some fruit instead. And you can find it wherever, Amazon, everywhere you find finer books. And give your website out one more time.
TrueMed.com, where we help drive medical spending to healthy items instead of Ozempic.
You're doing the Lord's work, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Calley Means.
You're the man.
Homes.com knows that when it comes to home shopping, it's never just about the house or condo. It's about the home. And what makes a home is more than just a house or property. It's the location. It's the neighborhood. If you have kids, it's also schools, nearby parks, transportation options, all the above. That's why Homes.com goes above and beyond to bring home shoppers the in-depth information they need to find the right home. And when I say in-depth, I'm talking about deep. That's right. Each listing features comprehensive information about the neighborhood, complete with a video guide. They also have details about local schools with test scores, state rankings, and student-to-teacher ratio. They even have an agent directory with the sales history of each agent. So when it comes to finding a home, not just a house, this is everything you need to know, all in one place. Homes.com. Homes.com. We've done your homework. O'Reilly. O'Reilly. Auto Parts. Wow. Yeah, you know the jingle. Yeah, they're in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offers friendly, helpful service and the parts and knowledge you need for maintenance and for repairs as well. I've always been a fan of O'Reilly. You know, I like to wrench. Used to use the one over in North Hollywood. Then it was the one up in La Cañada, or La Crescenta when I used to live out there. I'm always working on my stuff and always using O'Reilly. Whether you're a car aficionado or an auto novice, you're going to find the employees at O'Reilly Auto Parts to be knowledgeable, helpful, and best of all, they are friendly. So stop by. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Do it today. Or you can visit us online, O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam.
It's time for Nicaraguan Name That Movie with Adam's buddy Oswaldo. See if you can guess which movie this famous line is from.
What we have here is failure to communicate.
If you said Cool Hand Luke,
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
you're correct. Now, back to the show.
Terrence K. Williams, comedian and author and entrepreneur, has joined us once again. That's Ozzy. And I used to have to build houses with Ozzy. Could you imagine what it was like saying, Ozzy, go to the Home Depot and get 5 gallons of satin, Swiss coffee, Dunn Edwards paint, and then make sure you get a smooth, like a low nap roller, not a nappy roller, not a 3/4 roller, but like a smooth, or like a weenie roller, like a sponge weenie roller. He just leave and come back 7 hours later with nothing. Good to see you again, Terrence.
Good to see you, man. It's always a pleasure being on. I always appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to our live show we're doing together in Melbourne, Florida, coming up
Man,
May 4th.
I'm doing a show with Adam Carolla. I made it. I made it.
Oh.
I'm calling my mama, my grandma, my auntie, my cousins. I'm doing a show with Adam Carolla. Now, this is truly an honor. Okay, so I mean, I cannot wait.
Well, I'm excited to see you and work with you and do stand up with you. But speaking of all your family, everyone in my family's liberal, so they all hate anything I have to say about anything. But you're in more trouble because you're black. So
listen,
that's even
I don't
worse.
think they're probably not going to care as much, but I'll still tell them.
As your mom, how is your immediate family with you and your MAGA movement?
So I think they are. I mean, none of my family members are conservatives. None of them really vote. They all vote Democrat now. But my adopted parents are really, really supportive of me. They are just happy that I am not in the streets. They are happy that I'm not gang banging. They're just happy that I'm not in prison right now. So they are just really happy that they adopted a young boy who is now a grown man and also successful. So they're just happy about that. But I cannot get them on board with President Trump. But they're happy for me.
Have you noted now? Obviously, a larger percentage of the black community voted for Trump this time around, and men, especially, more so than black females, are probably, I'm assuming, his lowest demographic in terms of percentages and votes. I don't think it gets any lower than black female for Trump. But have you noticed, at the barber shop, more fellas getting on board with the Trump train?
You know what? So I actually do have one cousin. I do have one cousin who did vote for President Trump. He is 18, and it was funny. And I was surprised because his mother she's like super liberal. I mean, she is like far left. And we were all on the phone, and we were all, just talking on the phone. And he was in the background, and she told him, make sure you get registered to vote. And he said, oh, I am, and I'm voting for Trump. And she was like, what? She said, no. Well, no, you told him to register to vote, but he's going to vote for Trump. So she was a little upset. And so I do have one cousin who is a male, and he voted for President Trump, his first time voting. But his mother was not really happy. And she asked him, well, why are you voting for him? What made you want to do this? It wasn't me. His political science teacher, he said it was because of him. But his teacher did not tell him to vote for President Trump. But his teacher was just a great teacher. And I guess a lot of the things that, when they were talking about Democrats and like Republicans and policies, he just ended up leaning more to the right. And he voted for President Trump because of his political science teacher. And his mom said she is going to go up to the school and have a talk with the teacher because she was so upset.
Wow. Well, I can tell you there's two types of influences. There's an influence that's a positive influence where the teacher is telling your nephew or your cousin about this and that and topics and subjects. But then there's another kind of influence where the teacher's doing the opposite. He's saying a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man, and what's wrong with biological men competing against women, and turn your nephew or cousin off and have them vote the other way because they're hearing a bunch of bullshit. Like my son thinks like me, but he went to a school in California and had all the liberal teachers and got turned off by their craziness. COVID craziness turned a lot of people off. So you can go on one hand, you can have some crazy teacher talking to you about COVID 24/7, and that could either be effective or could make you go, I don't want to end up like this. I'm not down with whatever these people are down with.
Exactly. You know what? Outside of my family, I did notice a lot of black people supporting President Trump. And a lot of it is because Kamala Harris and the Democrats, they were just so far left. And I talked to a lot of the males. They did not like that Kamala. You know what? And this actually worked, and I'm so glad that that President Trump's campaign played this on TV. But a lot of black males that I talked to said they saw a commercial of Kamala Harris saying that she wanted to use taxpayers' money to help people in prison transition into females. And that right there that ran off a lot of black males. A lot of black males said that was absolutely crazy. You're going to use taxpayers' money to help people in prison transition into a different gender? And so that right there ran off a lot of people, a lot of males who had daughters. A lot of black males who had daughters told me that they didn't like this whole sharing the bathroom thing that the Democrats were all pushing. And so just based on that, they were so crazy that, you know what, like the Democrats were their policies were just so insane and sickening and disgusting that it ran people off. Like they lost people just because their policies were so just out of this world.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, here's what I would say to the black community. Here's what the Democrats will say, and here's what they have said, and here's what they're going to keep saying. They're going to say two things. They want, they're for the transgender community. They're for all the stuff you as black folk aren't really down with. They're down with all that. And then the next thing they're going to say is, we care about the black people, and we're going to help them get a helping hand and step up, and we're going to get you out of whatever position your community's in. One part of that is true. They are going to fight like hell for the transgender community. The other
Absolutely.
part where they lift you out of poverty, that part's bullshit. So, hey, black people, given that, if that's your choice, there's a part you disagree with. That's them focused nonstop on transgender. And then there's the other part where they lift all of you up out of poverty. One part they're going to execute. The other part they're not going to do jack shit about. Mm-hmm. So go vote. Because that's the only message you need to know.
Exactly. You know what? I do believe a lot of black people realize that the Democrats are just all talk. They're all talk. They do not keep their promises. And people really have to decide, okay, do I want to vote for this woman who's pretending to be black, or do I want to be able to put food on the table for my children? Do I want to be able to keep a roof over my head? What's more important, keeping a roof over my head or voting for a do nothing party and support this woman who we didn't even Kamala Harris nobody voted for Kamala Harris to be the candidate. Nobody voted for her. So, they literally tried to make black people believe that voting for a woman who has done nothing for the American people is more important than feeding their children, more important than being able to afford their mortgage and pay their rent on time. They really thought that this woman of color was more important than our livelihoods.
Well,
are you absolutely insane? Just so we can say, hey, we have a woman of color as president. Well, we don't have nothing to eat today. We probably gonna starve for the rest of the year, but at least we have a woman of color. Come on, are you crazy? Do you think black people are that stupid? Come on.
Well, I think they do actually think that, but here's the thing. They are incapable. It's not that they're not going to do what they say they're going to do. They're not capable of it. You cannot lift the black community out of poverty. You can't do that. Now, what you can do is make safety a priority and make a business climate that has lower regulations and lower taxes and is more conducive to small businesses and things. And you can level the playing field and you can focus on education. But there is no, we're going to lift you out of poverty. That, by the way, if they could do that, they would have done it 60 years ago when they started to do it. It doesn't work. The way to lift a group out of poverty is it's basic. It's simple science and basic math. You have to not have kids out of wedlock. You got to graduate high school. People need to get married. They need to have kids after they're married. Dads need to stay around and help raise the kids. And then there's continued education out of high school, and the rising tide will lift all the boats. And it'll work for Asian, which it does. It'll work for Jews, which it does. It'll work for white people, which is spottier than Asian and Jews. Nigerians come here. Last time I checked, they were pretty darn black. They do a lot better than white people in this country because they focus on education and they focus on family. And if you want to start preaching about that, then I'll vote for you, because that will. But if you start preaching about systemic racism and you're in charge of the system and you can never point out what it is that's racist, it's just we live in an invisible, it's like radon gas. It just comes up from the floorboards and it's just racism everywhere. Well, then no, all you're doing is pissing off and agitating the black community, and you have no plan, because how can you eradicate something that doesn't exist? You think about it. You're telling me you got a plan to get rid of systemic racism, and then we vote for you, and then you don't do anything about it, because what can you do? There is no systemic racism. There could be racism in the hearts and minds of some individuals, but there's no system of racism.
We literally had a black president for 8 years. 8 years. We had a black president who is biracial. The first lady, she was really black. Michelle, as black as it get. Okay. That was no question that she was black. So you had a black president, a black first lady in office for 8 years. And you want to talk about systematic racism and all this stuff? Like, you want to talk about, listen, Obama also there was a time that he had the House in the Senate. So they made all these promises about, oh, we're going to lift the black people out of poverty. Obama had 8 years to do that, and he was a black president. He didn't even do it.
He can't do it.
He didn't do it.
Well,
he ran on that, but he didn't do it, because you know what? Like you said, you can't do that.
Speaking of that, I got a clip to play for you, Terrence. It was interesting. It was Tim Walz, who really, it was a bizarre choice for a VP the more you see him making the rounds these days. Tim Walz was on Gavin Newsom's podcast, and first off, he looks a little crazed when he talks. He's going to say this thing, but also I realized these guys have some sort of mind virus. So what Gavin Newsom is attempting to do is inhabit the skin of a reasonable, sane American. That's Gavin Newsom is doing his best impression of a normal person, because all his pie in the sky bullshit would not work nationally. It would work in California, but no one wants what California's cooking. Nobody wants. People use California as a cautionary tale. It's like, keep going and you're going to end up like California. Well, then why would we want the guy who runs California to run the nation? So in the last 20 minutes, Gavin Newsom has to pretend that he's not an ideologue who's fucking nuts. And now, he never spoke this way before. And listen, everybody, when people change their tune in their mid-50s, don't believe them. Don't believe them. If somebody, if you got some crazy daughter and she goes off to a lesbian college and comes back with purple hair and she's 18 and a half, we can call that a phase. And I won't hold it against her later on when she's 33 and married and has 2 kids and is living in Greenwich, Connecticut. But when politicians start changing their mind in their mid-50s, that's bullshit. It just means they want to get elected. Kamala Harris she was going to ban fracking when she was 56 and a half, but at age 60, she changed her mind. There's no mind changing in your mid-50s. She's lying.
It's too late in the game to change at that age.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine?
It's too late in the game.
Imagine if that's how it worked. Like sometime next year, I would start liking the song "Maneater" by Hall & Oates. Like I go, you know what? I've changed my mind. Never going to happen. Taking it to the grave. All right, so we have a clip, but watch Tim's face and then watch how he answers. So what Gavin Newsom is basically saying is like, listen, we can't do all the crazy race hustling. We can't do all the misogynist shit. This is half the country. We have to convince them that we're sort of sane and like the same shit they like. Thus, Kamala Harris saying, I've changed my mind on fracking. Yeah, and all of a sudden, she's tough on the border. Yeah, because she licked her finger and she put it in the air and she went, oh, this is the way the wind is blowing. So what Gavin Newsom is doing is he's setting up for a presidential run. And this podcast should be called Pretending to be Sane with Gavin Newsom. Tim Walz is a dope, and he's not got the memo where Democrats need to start pretending they're normal. So listen to his answer.
It's a natural reaction. I think it's one of the reasons we're losing so many men. And again, it's multi-ethnic. It's not just white men. We're losing them. We're losing them to these guys online. We're losing them to people that I'm bringing on this podcast as well. That's why I brought...
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
But they exist, and we could deny they exist.
All right, hold on. Gavin Newsom's a total pussy. He can go. He's such a pussy. First off, Walz is like, these are bad guys. Bad. You're a bad man. You're going into the cornfield. It's like, Tim Walz, these are middle-aged guys with families and mortgages who love this country. You may disagree with them, but you can't just yell, these are bad guys. Yeah, they're bad guys who like a stout border and a lower corporate tax. Okay, and more cops. And they love the military. And they like the NFL. And they like Garth Brooks. Okay, bad guys. Bad. They're bad. They're bad. They're bad guys who pay their taxes. They're bad guys who go to church. They're bad guys who hug their daughters. Yes, they're bad guys. Bad. They're bad guys. Many were in the military. Many come from military families. Bad. Yeah, they recycle. Yeah, bad. They pay their mortgage. Yeah, bad. They pay taxes. Yeah, they're bad. Bad. Bad guys who don't do anything bad. Bad guys who are the backbone of this country. Bad guys who are plumbers and carpenters and in the military. Yeah, bad. But they're bad. Okay, there's, 65 million bad guys voted for Trump. Okay, all bad guys. All bad guys. Okay. And then the good guys just let the border open so the gangbangers could come in and get into the white slavery department. Okay, good guys, but good guys, right? Good. All right, so Tim Walz is a fucking idiot. Newsom should have had a little bit of balls and said, I talked to these guys. You know what? They're not bad guys. You may disagree with them on politics, but they're not bad dudes. They love this country. But he's a puss. He didn't say that to Nutjob. But if you go back like 10, yeah, if you go back 10 seconds and you play this, you'll hear him. Then Tim just goes into, well, what do they want? They want racism and misogyny, right? Well, first off, that's not a business. You know what I mean? That's not a plan. Elect me. Why? Because I like misogyny and racism. Like, it's not a plan. It's not. It wouldn't work if you owned a deli. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, hey, I'm starting a deli, but here's the plan. Nobody but white people and no ladies. Okay. I don't think you're going to get a lot of investors. I don't think that's a great plan, but we'll play it. We'll play with Tim. Tim's an idiot. All right.
We're losing them to these guys online. We're losing them to people that I'm bringing on this podcast as well. That's why I brought...
These are bad guys, though. These are bad guys.
But they exist, and we could deny they exist. They exist. Not only they exist, they persist, and they're actually influencing young kids every single day.
How do we push some of those guys back under a rock?
I think we have to first
pause it. So his plan is, let's get rid of these guys. They didn't come from under a rock. They came from Iraq, where they served this fucking country, pussy. They didn't pretend like you did. They went there, and they served, and they drive trucks, and they work in oil fields, and they have families. You want to get them back under the rock. Where did Charlie Kirk come from, and why can't we get him under? He went to college. He pays taxes. He has ideas. And by the way, you're going to get beat every single election if you go, who are we dealing with? We're dealing with bad guys. what do? We got to get a rock lifter so we can get him back under that rock. And by the way, I don't know. That doesn't sound. I don't want to live in a country where if you win, you need to get me under a rock. That sounds a little oppressive to me, actually. Right. But all right, keep going.
How do we move some of those guys back under a rock?
I think we have to first understand what their motivations are. I think we have to understand what they're actually doing. And
you don't
I think
that's racism and misogyny?
I think there's a lot of that, but I don't think it's exclusive.
Somebody has to go, listen, 50, 61-year-old adult, shut the fuck up. Yes, it's racism and misogyny. That's where the money is.
That's why they lost.
It's exactly why they lost. That 30-second exchange is why they lost. He doesn't understand. They love their family. They're not down with the transgender movement. They like a stout border, and they'd like a little less regulation by the government. That's Absolutely. It. That's the rock they're living under.
Yep. And that's why the black vote increased for President Trump. Even when the Democrats were pushing racism, misogyny, racism, women came out to vote for President Trump. Black men came out to vote for President Trump. And even after hearing Tim Walz and the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, push race they were just shoving racism down our throats. Like, nobody believed. They were pushing it so hard that nobody believed it. People just didn't believe it. It was so forced. People didn't even believe it.
Well, you can only, listen. I've lived in California my whole life. Since I was in high school, every 2 years there's a story where killer bees are coming here from Mexico, Africanized killer bees. They're heading into Texas. Saturday Night Live had a sketch called The Killer Bees with John Belushi in it. Why? Why did Saturday Night Live in New York have a sketch in 1976 about killer bees? Because they were talking about it for 50 years. Well, They never came. And if I'm sitting around tonight and I turn on the news and someone starts talking about killer bees coming in from Mexico, I just roll my eyes and change the channel because they said it too many times and it never showed up.
Yes. Oh, they've been screaming. They were screaming racism for the longest. Racism. We had a black president. We have a female of color who was the vice president. Racism. Oh, it's so nauseating. Oh my God, I'm sick of it.
But let me ask you.
You know what? Yeah, come on.
Well, let me ask you this, and I've asked a couple black comedians this. I've not got a good answer out of them. Okay. But when you hear constant ringing the bell of Joe Biden saying, black entrepreneurs are just as smart as white ones. They just don't have access to attorneys or accountants or anything. They can't help themselves. They don't know what to do. Or he starts talking about these junk fees on these airlines. They affect poor people and people of color. Okay, at a certain point, as a black man, I would go, I'm insulted that you think this way of me, that you think that in 2025, I can't start a business and find an attorney and find an accountant because I'm black and I'm too stupid to figure this stuff out. At what point does it become insulting that you basically think we're special needs kids who you need to take care of?
You know what? I think a lot of black people did find it insulting, but then there was a group of black people, to be honest, a lot of them are so brainwashed, and the Democrats have brainwashed a lot of them to the point to where they are okay with being insulted because they think and they just can't see past the hate for Republicans and Donald Trump. That they just, you know what? I don't know how 99% of black people cannot see that and say, wow, that is insulting. How dare you think I'm that stupid? Do you think we are do you think we're monkeys and we just don't know how to operate electronics? You don't think we know how to work Google? You don't think we know how to open up a laptop? You don't think we know how to, come on now. Joe Biden is literally saying, we're basically brain dead. Because you have to be brain dead not to know how to. You have to have an intellectual disability, or you have to basically brain dead not to know how to research something, how to open up a computer to find out where you can go vote, or how to get an ID.
Yeah, well, quietly, the ID part is the most insulting part ever.
It is a liquor store, literally. And you go to the hood, to the black community. It's a liquor store on every single block, and you have to have an ID. So if people it's bull crap, okay? I know people who didn't finish high school and they went out and got them an ID. People know how to go get an ID. They get them to go to the club. They get them to go buy alcohol, to buy something to smoke. So if the reason y'all saying they don't know how to get one to go vote, no, they just don't. Some of them just don't want to vote. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about that?
They just
don't want to vote.
It's a good point, which is, I always think I travel a lot, and I just traveled, and every time I travel, it's ID, airport ID, counter, check-in ID, then ID when you go through security. And then in the course of a trip from here at Burbank, California to Arizona, where I did a bunch of shows the other weekend, I had to pull the ID once out, check in the bag in at the counter, and then I had to produce the ID again when I was going through security. And then when I checked into the hotel, I had to produce the ID for the third time in about 2 hours. So you can't go anywhere without an ID. But I never really thought about the liquor store in the hood, because those guys, they're getting their juice and they want their gin too. See what I did there? So you're right. If you're in the hood, and you want
that malt liquor. They want that malt liquor.
You want to get some Colt 45.
Colt 45 and a Black and Mild.
Maybe King Cobra. I don't know. But you want that, and you're going to need an ID. And so you will find one.
Exactly. But their goal is to convince black people that we don't have any opportunities, that the system is holding us back from knowing things that we should know. I think it's absolutely, it's just, but that's how they've been able to basically control the black community for so long, making them feel like you need us because the other side is stopping you from getting the things that you deserve, and they're stopping you from exercising your rights. They're trying to take your right away. You guys don't have the right to vote. We're fighting for your voting rights. Are you fucking crazy? What do you mean you fighting for our voting rights? How?
Well,
black people are allowed to vote.
I love it.
When did they change the law?
Well, but what about they can't drink water? We can't give them water within 200 feet of the polling place. Like, for that, these are insane arguments. First off, I go everywhere. Sometimes I bring some water, sometimes I don't, but I'll be in charge of that. I've never had a situation where I went to a Starbucks at the airport and there was a long line, and I was like, I'm going to pass out unless someone brings me some water, like right now. Like, this notion of that they made a huge commotion about a rule that said, basically, if you're waiting in line to vote, you can't have people come up to you and start talking to you and giving you swag bags or freebies or anything because you're about to vote. And some guys will change their vote for a hoodie or a T-shirt or a travel mug, you know? So the deal is nobody can come up and do anything to you within 200 feet of the polling place. And they somehow switched that into water and then made it seem like black people were going to die of dehydration while waiting to vote, except for, last I checked, they can bring their own water unless they're not capable of bringing their own water.
Exactly.
Which
they just wanted to give out a freebie to buy some votes. And I'm not going to lie to you, Adam. I'm not gonna. If I'm in line and I've been in a long line, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. Somebody bring me some ribs falling off the bone. I might change my vote. I might change my vote, Adam. I'm like, hold on now.
Well, when you're trying to influence black voters, you got to bring ribs.
Yeah, you bring me some ribs falling. They falling off the bone. They're real tender. I don't know, Adam. I might change my vote. So I think it's a good thing that people should not be able to bring by to give out freebies, because somebody like me, I will change my vote for some good food. I'm just playing.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. ID and drinking water in a line. I mean, the whole storyline for the entire Curb Your Enthusiasm last year was he gave water to some black woman standing in line. But what I'm saying is all right, ID. Is there a black American who's currently alive, who's over 18, who says, I really would like to get an ID, but I have no modality to get an ID because of this society we've crafted? Is there one black person that wants an ID that has no way to get an ID? The answer is 0 of those people exist. Is there one black person that got dehydrated waiting in line to vote because they forgot their own water and couldn't get out of line and go buy some water or come back or get water from their car, whatever it is, because some Karen wasn't allowed to hand them water? Does it exist? If neither one of those two scenarios exist, then it's not a thing. It's not like, well, 1%. It's not even 1%. It's 0. There's nobody.
Yeah, and most people were voting in November.
You guys did mail-in ballots. Yes, I know.
They're doing mail-in ballots. It's November.
I agree.
You dehydrated in November? In the line in November? I mean, you got other health problems. You probably should have been at the doctor's office instead of in the line to vote. If you dehydrated in the line in November,
listen, it's nuts. But by the way, it's insulting. If you're black, between the ID, I don't know what's more insulting, the ID or the you forgot to pack water vote. But either one, both those are insanely insulting, and they would never try it on white people. Because white people go, well, fucking bring your own water, idiot. They're not in charge of your water. If you don't, tell you what, chug a bottle of Gatorade before you get out of the car. You'll probably be able to make it.
This is the problem with the black community. A lot of them do not do their own research. Well, a lot of people, period, in America do not do their research. But a lot of black people, they literally, even when I was growing up, I was told, you got to vote for like the Democrats, or they are for the black people. That's all black people say. The Democrats is for the blacks.
Right.
You know, the reason why we got them food stamps in that Section 8. You know, they're going to make sure we fed. You know, they are for the blacks. Black people need to do their own. Stop listening to people in your family. Do your own research, okay? Stop listening to people in your family that's been telling you to vote Democrat your whole life. Like, they've been voting for Democrat their whole lives, and look where you're at right now, okay?
And also,
all these damn promises.
You're not
do
voting.
Your research.
You're not voting for a zookeeper to come feed you and clean your cage. You can go wherever you want. You can do whatever you want to do. So don't vote for the zookeeper. Vote for the person that's going to keep the place safe and lower the taxes. Terrence, I got to hop because we got some news to do, but I'm going to see you May 4th in Melbourne, Florida.
Yes.
I'll bring some ribs. You bring
some ribs and barbecue sauce.
You bring the Colt 45. We'll have a time. That's, by the way, I don't know what the venue is. May 4th, Melbourne, Florida. Oh, Melbourne Auditorium. There you go. At the Melbourne Auditorium in Florida. Also, the book, The Little Kid Who Can, is out now. Wherever you find finer books. And go to his website. What's your website, Terrence? TerranceKWilliams.com, and the information for our show is also on my website as well. So TerranceKWilliams.com, they can find the show info there. And I'll also be in Venice the next day, May 5th. I will be in Venice, Florida. Just so you know.
Venice. They get the book and and come to the show, y'all. Melbourne is gonna be a great time. And I'm so honored to be able to share the stage with you, Adam. This is going to be great.
Thanks, Terrence. I can't wait to see you. And we'll take a quick break. Be back with Mayhem in the News right after this. Rough greens. Well, sometimes in life, you want to get to the truth, but you have to look at the numbers if you want to get to the truth. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the creator of Rough Greens, tells us that unfortunately 50% of all dogs over 10 years old will die of cancer. And I talked to Dennis. He's very passionate about this. And this is widely attributed to your dog's diet. So here's the good news. With thousands of testimonials and 5-star reviews every month, Rough Greens is now the #1 all-natural dog supplement in America. And you don't have to keep the dog food in the fridge or anything. Just sprinkle it on. It's so easy. You don't have to change your dog's food or your dog's diet. You'll improve your dog's health. You just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Add a scoop of Rough Greens, and your dog starts having a healthier life. You'll see it in the coat. You smell the breath. The whole 9 yards. It's Rough Greens, right, Dawson?
Fetch a free Jumpstart trial bag for your dog today. Go to roughgreens.com. Just use promo code ADAM. That's RUFF greens.com and use promo code ADAM and just cover shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Adam Carolla's on the road. San Diego, April 11th and 12th at the American Comedy Club. Port Charlotte, Florida, May 2nd and 3rd at Bassani's Italian Steakhouse and Comedy Theater. And Melbourne, Florida on May 4th at the Melbourne Auditorium. Get tickets for these shows and a whole lot more at adamcarolla.com.
All right, Mayhem's here. He's got some news.
Yeah, the news. First up, the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is under fire after comments he made during his recent appearance on The View.
We're going to hear that.
You know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, my the land and water that I own, or my employees? They hate government. Government's a barrier to people. A barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay. Where'd the music come from?
They were playing him off, trying to get to a commercial break. You can see Whoopi. Watch it again. You'll see Whoopi going, "Hey, Chuck, we're going to go to break." But she's not able to interrupt.
Yes.
He is a politician, and he knows how to filibuster.
It's weird because I saw it a couple times. I didn't hear the music.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
What is that?
It's attached to the video. I haven't seen it without music before.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I've seen it. Maybe on your phone you hear it differently. But that's on the video.
So that's their music.
Watch Whoopi. Let's watch it again.
No, I know Whoopi makes the move, but play it again.
You know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or I built my company with my bare hands. How dare your government tell me how I should treat my customers, my the land and water that I own, or my employees? They hate government. Government's a barrier to people. A barrier to stop them from doing things. They want to destroy it. We are not letting them do it, and we're united.
Okay. Oh, wow. They're playing him off. Listen, this old fuck needs to step aside. Also, it's like somebody... I always think about Mark Garagos, and Mark Garagos has clients, high-profile people.
Yeah.
And if they go... I want to sit down and do an interview with ABC. He goes, no talking. You're not going to sit there and talk, because when you start there and start talking, and later on they're going to use it against you.
Locked into the story.
Yeah, and when Alec Baldwin was going to sit down with George Stephanopoulos and do a long interview about the whole shooting thing, Garagos was vehement. It's like, do not do that. Do not let your client go sit down with that guy. Mm-hmm. You get nothing out of it, and it will be used against you at some point. And so what's he do? He goes and sits down and talks to him, and then he says, I never squeezed that trigger. And then the FBI forensic bullet guy says it was squeezed. The trigger was squeezed. And now he's lying. And now they're throwing that in his face in court. That's why you don't do it. Chuck Schumer and all you fucking idiots that just go out there to start running at the mouth and pissing off Americans, especially business owners and stuff, they're going to turn these into commercials against your party in the next election.
Yes.
And he's also saying the quiet part out loud, like these people starting their own business, want to keep their money. Okay. First off, fuck you. Secondly, you don't do anything. You don't run a business. You don't know what it's like. And you do not know how difficult the government makes it to navigate when you run a business. Also, nobody I know, there's not a human being I know, and I only hang out with rich guys and mayhem. Those are the only group that's just exclusively successful, wealthy, well-to-do, responsible, sober winners, and mayhem are the two. That's the two groups I hang. Those are the only people I hang out with. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. None of them ever say I should pay nothing in taxes. They get it. Someone's picking up garbage. There's cops to pay. There's firemen to pay. None of them say no taxes. They go less taxes. Yeah. These guys are in a 50% tax bracket in California. They're at 50%. They don't want it to be 50%. They would be over the moon with 30%. And that would seem like enough for you guys to keep a little water in the reservoirs in case the winds kick up. But okay, they don't like two things. They feel like your bullet train to nowhere that costs $80 billion more than you estimated. They feel like that's a waste of money, and they feel like the percentage is too high. But they're not worried about the concept. You guys portray all these people as guys who don't think they should have to pay taxes. No, they know they have to pay taxes. They don't want to pay at such a high rate. And as I was watching, let's watch Schumer one more time just to get me going. And by the way, reminiscent of the fantastic Obama speech from whatever year, where he's like, you didn't build that. By the way, the Obama speech is great because it's not him saying you didn't build that. It's him in front of a room of dumb losers going, you think you're smart? You think you work harder? People work hard. This fucking hard work argument is retarded. Mark Garagos works in an air-conditioned office with a high-back leather chair, and I used to work on roofs of apartment buildings. Okay, my job was harder. I worked harder than his. I didn't work smarter. I didn't get educated. I didn't get trained. I didn't put the time in that he put in, but I did work harder. Diesel mechanics work harder. Everybody, when you go to the airport and you see the dudes down with the ear protection on and they're pushing bags around on the tarmac, the throwers. Yeah. And the guys emptying out the fucking blue water latrine from the sludge from the plane, and then the guy's hooking up the gas. He's gassing up the plane. That guy is working harder than the two pilots that are sitting in the cockpit watching them doing nothing, texting their girlfriend on their phone. They're working harder, but guess what? They get paid less. They get paid less because they didn't go to flight school and they didn't go to the Naval Academy and they didn't do what the pilots did. So what's your suggestion? I mean, how do we remedy this? Yeah, the people who work hard physically get paid less. I sit here and bloviate, not hard. Used to dig ditches, was hard. Got paid $7 an hour, $8 after I bought a pickup truck. But this whole thing, you think you work hard? Yeah, okay.
Well, also, now you're not working an 8-hour day on a construction site. You're working a 15 to 16 hour a day behind a microphone. So technically, although you're not breaking a sweat for a paycheck anymore, you're still working pretty hard.
Not breaking a sweat. You listen to him?
No, I don't work that many hours, but I will say this in my defense. I rarely worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, like no matter how shitty construction is, only a handful of Sundays. Worked a fair amount of Saturdays, but not that many Sundays. But I work Sundays now, and I'm never really off the clock because I always have an idea and I always want to share something, and I'm always jotting down a note. But let's not mistake this for hard work, even though I appreciate what you're trying to do there, Dawson. All right, let's hear Chucky one more time. Sorry.
And you know what their attitude is? I made my money all by myself. How dare your government take my money from me? I don't want to pay taxes. Or,
all right, pause
I built my company with my...
Yeah, you built your company. Yes, you did make your money. You made your money by yourself, and now I would like to give a reasonable percentage of it to the government so that we could have policemen and firemen and trash. That's what we're saying. And then I start thinking about this. It's really the percentage. If you're in a high bracket in California, you're just sitting right about 50%. All right. I have an agent. He gets 10%. Mike August books a live show. He gets 10% and I get 90% because I'm on the fucking road, standing on the stage, going through the hotels, going through the airports and doing the work. Mike is very happy to stay home in Yorba Linda and take 10% of me leaving and working. The government doesn't leave or work or ever go. They didn't go on the road this weekend with me. They went 50%. My thing is like, I'm fine with a percentage, and we could agree on that. But A, don't take 50%, and then B, stop demonizing the people that are at 50% who are working Sunday fucking nights, you retard.
I think he hurts his argument when he gets into the sing-songy,
yes.
I'm in
I built
kindergarten.
my business by myself. Yes, they did. Well,
this guy's a leader in the government.
These people want to start a business. I know. He's a fucking asshole. And it shows how far, it shows the circles he hangs in and the people he talks to and the people he listens to. He's not hanging around with loggers who fucking work. They're construction guys.
Both sides of the aisle are sick of the guy and they hate him. The Democrats tell him to step down.
But also, like, think about this. All right, Mike. Whatever, show business, your manager, agent gets 10%, manager 10%, maybe agent 10%, book agents, guys like that. Okay. If one of those guys went, if Mike August went, you know what, I'll take 50%, I'd go fuck off. I'm not gonna, that's nuts. I'm going on the road. I'm going on the fucking road, stand up there, I'm writing all the material, I'm sweating my ass off. You're back in Yorba Linda working on your short game, or you're in the green room devouring all the mixed nuts for me. So, no, I'm not giving you 50%. And by the way, nobody's giving you 50%. They would stop doing comedy. God's honest. If somebody said, I got a 50%, well, guess who gets 50%? Not Mike August. The government gets 50%. And they don't leave. They don't even know what I'm doing. It just comes in. Yeah. So, bullshit. But also, I was thinking about it too. It's like I started to kind of go through it in my mind. Like, I'm working with a realtor now because I've been displaced. Realtor gets 4%, 5%, 4.5%. They don't get 50%. They don't get 30%. They get, and by the way, these guys, these realtors, they'll meet you on a Thursday at night to go look at a house. They'll meet you Sunday morning. They'll go to the house. They'll meet you with 10 minutes notice. They'll get out of bed and go walk, go meet you and walk. And they could look at 20 houses and have no sales. Nothing's right. They haven't made a penny. They haven't made a penny yet. They just do it because they're trying to get 4.5%, not 50%. So I don't know where this 50% or even whatever, the federal 37%, whatever. That's way too fucking high. No other business works that way. If you do a thing where it's like you go, look, you handle the merch, I'll do the stuff, but you print the merch out, then you do the t-shirts, and then you ship the t-shirts. Okay, that guy get 25%, maybe. It's not getting 50%.
It's saying, hey, you're going to work a 9-hour day, but those last 3 hours, I get the money.
Right. Okay, so he doesn't like people who have businesses. And also, could you imagine, I just rented out, I was thinking about this woman, I rented out a warehouse to her who started her own business, dog care business, kind of, dog, dropped the dog off, had stayed like a kennel.
Doggy hotel.
Doggy hotel. It was her house. And she started out of her house, and we'd use her. And then eventually she ended up renting a warehouse of mine, and she came in and she put money into it, put air conditioning, and did the flooring, and did all the little doggy kennels, and set up all the stuff, and paid tons and tons of dough to outfit it and get all the equipment. I'd go by there, there'd be a plumber there, an electrician there, like setting up the little doggy bath in the back with the cleaning and everything. Can you imagine going up there and going, yeah, you think you started this business yourself? No, you did. Yeah. She'd fucking slap you in the face with a flip-flop. She'd be incensed if you just went in and started explaining to her she didn't do that. All right, I'll play you Obama's speech, which is good too. This one's a while ago. But by the way, this is Obama saying it out loud, everybody. Now he's basically saying, really what they're saying is, stupid, lazy people, just vote for me. I'm not hanging out with any of you. I'll be in Martha's Vineyard with Jay-Z, but I need you to vote for me. Here we go.
If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help.
Oh, he's in his black voice.
There was
now.
a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we have that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
What? What a fucking asshole. By the way, hey, dumbos who voted for this guy, the second you saw that, you should have went, oh, Jesus, no. No. That's called communism. I mean, I don't know what that is. That's not good. Somebody else did that. He had the first part of the speech where he went, you didn't do that yourself, and then he just kind of freeformed the second.
I think he fumbled that. Like, that wasn't what he meant.
Oh,
but he said it.
No, that's not what he meant to say. That's what he thinks.
Oh, yeah.
And also, he got in front of a bunch of dumb, poor people, and he was getting carried away with himself.
What do you mean? He put on the MLK voice.
Right. Somebody built a road. Yes. Somebody built a road. And somebody had a school teacher. Yes. And you had indoor plumbing. That is correct. And then you built a business. That's how that goes. Well, so he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
By the way, look, I don't know what year that was from, Dawson. We can figure it out. But the point is this. Obama and Chuck Schumer, that isn't... That's not a unique thought. That's how that party thinks. That's how they think. Mm-hmm. We need your money because you should give it to us so we can have government take care of you and all the other people. But no one ever really gets into the part where they waste billions of dollars and trillions of dollars. That's a part. That thing is 13 years old, that speech, or 12 and a half years old. Roanoke, Virginia. And that's where he gave the speech in July of 2012. Yeah, it's not new. That's how they think, folks. So, and by the way, here's what I would say about those guys. Listen to them when they talk. That's what they mean. I mean, when Trump goes, I want to shut down the border, he wants to shut down the border. When Chuck Schumer gets sing-songy and insulty about people starting their own business, or Obama talks about you not doing it yourself, that's what he means. Mm-hmm. Now, when Kamala Harris talks, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what she means. All right, let's do one more, shall we?
Yeah, sure. I think that you mentioned Alec Baldwin. I guess I'll jump into that. Hilaria Baldwin, which is a hilarious name, snaps at husband Alec for interrupting her during a red carpet interview. Check this out.
It's going to be great. You're a winner.
Oh my God, when I'm talking, you're not talking.
Sorry.
No, when I'm talking, you're not talking. This is why, yes, we'll have to just cut him out of the show.
It's going to be great. You're a winner.
Oh my God, when I'm talking, you're not talking.
Sorry.
No, when I'm talking, you're not talking.
Baldwin's. I predict Baldwin's going to fake his own death soon.
I predict he shoots another lady.
We have a horrible... Our society is so funny. Could you imagine if you reverse the roles on this.
Right.
If Baldwin pulled that on her, the internet would explode. The ladies from The View would be outraged. Everyone. Now, she's a hero and empowered, but if he did that, the ladies from The View, man, they would not be happy with Alec.
Yeah. They're out here promoting their show, The Baldwins, and a new reality series. Everybody's giving a little fierce criticism because reviewers saying that it's a distasteful attempt to restore the actor's image.
Baldwin is a couple things. At the end of the day, these guys need money. You need money. You got a lifestyle, and you got 6 kids or whatever, and you gotta get paid.
Yeah.
And doing independent films is not really getting you paid. Baldwin is like one of these guys who's real high intellect guy, real smart, but sort of volatile too. And he's probably one of these guys that is, they say ignorance is bliss, and like when I see my Labrador Phil, he's always happy because he's a dope. You know what I mean? He likes it. And then there's a version of smart where you can be smart and happy, but Alec Baldwin ain't that guy. He's smart. It's sort of like you can go to the ball game and enjoy a hot dog, but if you know everything that's in that hot dog, you can't enjoy it. Better to just not know and just eat that dog, bro. And Baldwin is like a super high IQ dude who just ends up sort of, if you know too much, well, a couple things. If you know a lot, then you also know there's a lot you don't know, which bothers you a little bit. Better to be a dumb know-it-all than a smart guy that's like constantly questioning himself, you know? But he is kind of trapped in his own brain.
But like the wife, though, what's your take on her? Because like that was a weird, snappy thing to do on a red carpet in front of the whole world.
We have conditioned women to think it's funny and cool to do that kind of clap back thing and do all that stuff. We think it's funny. We think it's empowering.
He was trying to banter with her, and she, instead of yes and, she yes and shut that shit down.
Well, there's the phrase, you go, girl. There's no you go, boy. There's just you go, girl. And I think in lieu of a sense of humor, which she does not have, she tries to, she's trying to dice it up here, and it's not landing quite right. Also, what happened to her accent? Wasn't she like, in my home country, we have no word for cucumber. That is a word that you have. That is not. Was it tomato?
I didn't know that.
Oh, she had a cucumber.
Cucumber.
We call him pepino. Cucumber.
She lost her accent.
She had an accent.
She had a como se dice moment.
Yeah. She did. Where
she was like, isn't she from Boston or something?
Well, yeah, but you know how my dad's family's from Sicily, and I walk around playing a mandolin and a squeeze box and pushing a gondola. I wear a gondolier's outfit, and you can hear my thick Italian accent all the time. And I do a lot of how you say, and you always kind of jump in and help me out in the words I can't think of because I'm thinking in Italian. That's what happens when your dad's family's from Italy. So, I can't speak good English.
Oh,
we have it?
We have it.
Oh, this is good.
We have, how do you say it? Cucumbers. We have, how do you say it? Cucumbers.
¿Cómo se dice?
Yeah, I think there's a tomato in that bowl too, so maybe I just saw it. And it was cucumber or tomato, but cucumber. Yeah, all right. But now our English is
For the
good.
record, it's tomate.
Tomate and cucumbers pepino.
Sí, claro.
Oh. You know how I know cucumbers pepino?
No.
Because I asked I'm sitting around, I've told the story before, I'll make it fast, but I told my Spanish-speaking nanny, I was thinking about Pepino Cuevas, Hall of Fame boxer. Don't make that face. You're a combat sports guy.
No, I know. I just didn't know that you were going there.
Pepino Cuevas. And I said, Pepino Cuevas. And I'm Pepino's not. I said to my nana, I go, what's Pepino mean? She goes, cucumber. Cucumber. What kind of... I think it means little guy or something too. But what kind of name is Cucumber Cuevas? I mean, for a fighter. You know what I mean? It's not a good...
Yeah.
It
doesn't evoke... It's not mayhem.
It doesn't instill...
Evoke,
it doesn't instill fear into the hearts of the opponents, right?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Pepino. Is Pepino cucumber and little man or junior or something? I think you call your kid Pepino, but it means cucumber. Maybe they just call him that. Yeah. Hall of Famer. He was a good boxer. Back when they had those blood and guts. Mexican boxers.
Yeah.
Remember those guys?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Put your head down, shoe shine.
That's right, the shoe shine.
I'm finding Pepino as a spiny Andean shrub or the fruit of this plant. So it may look like a cucumber. It may be a kind of cucumber.
Oh, it's a fruit
spiky
of
little
a
plant is a little vicious.
Pepino has roots in medieval Latin name Pepinus. Huh?
Yeah.
Meaning small or little. Oh, I don't want to connect that to penis.
Yeah, no, I thought maybe they're calling him Little Dick to piss him off.
Yeah, it means little, but it also means cucumber, which is, I don't know.
An edible, usually purple-marked yellow fruit.
Whoa, Pepino's getting more phallic.
It's purple and edible. All right. Enough of this nonsense.
Shenanigans.
Enough shenanigans. Go to amcarolla.com for all the live shows coming to doing stand-up at American Comedy Club. That'll be April 11th and 12th. And then I'm traveling all over the place. So you can just go to amcarolla.com for that. I want to thank Calley Means for the conversation. And I also want to thank Terrence K as well. And until next time, it's Adam Carolla. For all those guys in Mayhem saying, mahalo.